Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a massive question today. How do you really know if the things you believe are true? We're about to walk through a really powerful and, let's be honest, kind of scary way to take a hard look at your own beliefs.
So, first, we've got to understand the problem we're even trying to solve. I want you to picture your mind, but not as some clean, perfectly organized library. Think of it as something a little more messy. And that brings us to a pretty direct question. Think about your core beliefs for a second. You know, the big stuff about the world, about yourself, about right and wrong. How many of those did you actually consciously choose? And how many did you just sort of pick up along the way without even realizing it?
To really get a handle on this, let's use a great metaphor. Imagine your mind is like a giant attic. And your whole life, you've been collecting things, ideas, beliefs, values, and just tossing them up there one after another. So what's actually in this attic of yours? Well, a lot of it is just what you'd call cultural inheritance. Stuff you get from your family, from society. You don't even think about it. But mixed in with all the good stuff, you've got half-truths, you've got simple misunderstandings, and yeah, even some things that are just plain wrong. Eventually, that attic gets so jammed, you can barely find your way around. So, what are we supposed to do with this mess? Well, the philosopher René Descartes came up with a pretty radical solution. He basically called for a total intellectual reset. A once-in-a-lifetime, no-holds-barred spring cleaning for your mind. And what's so wild about this is just the sheer scale of it. He didn't say, hey, question a couple of things. He said, everything. Every single belief you have. Every value you hold dear. His idea was that you need to find a quiet place and just start over, right from scratch. I know, that sounds huge. Maybe totally impossible, right? So how could you actually do something like that? Well, Descartes gave us another brilliant metaphor to make it practical, the apple basket method. Okay, so here's the key idea. Imagine you've got a basket of apples and you're worried one of them might be rotten. You can't just poke around trying to find the bad one, right? Because the rot from that one apple could have already spread to the others. The only safe thing to do is to dump every single apple out of the basket, then you pick up each one, inspect it carefully, and only put the perfectly good ones back in. And Descartes says you have to do the exact same thing with your beliefs. And this whole process, this act of dumping out all the apples from your mental basket, well, it has a name. It's called Cartesian doubt. It's this conscious, intentional decision to unlearn everything you think you know so you can build your worldview back up on a foundation of things you are absolutely certain about.
Now, if all this is starting to sound difficult, that's because it is. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things a person can do, both emotionally and intellectually. Let's dig into why it's so tough. Think about it. When you empty that basket, what are you left with? For a moment, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. You've just deliberately destroyed your entire framework for understanding the world. It's like being in free fall. It's a moment of profound, deep uncertainty. And that can be a truly terrifying act.
And let's be clear about what's on the line here. We're not talking about questioning whether your favorite team is the best. No, this means putting the fundamental beliefs you got from your parents under the microscope. The core values of your entire culture, even your most sacred, deeply held ideas. Absolutely nothing gets a free pass. And this all boils down to a fundamental choice we all have to make. Do you choose to live with the familiar rot? You know, knowing your belief system probably has some bad apples, but hey, it's comfortable and it's what you know. Or do you face the empty basket? That scary, insecure feeling of not knowing, all in the hope of finding what's actually real. You know, most people, if we're being honest, they choose the rot. But for the few who are brave enough to face that emptiness, there's a huge reward. So, what's the prize for doing all this incredibly difficult work? It really comes down to this powerful idea right here. The only beliefs that are actually worth having are the ones that can survive this intense, brutal process of questioning. A real truth isn't afraid of being inspected. In fact, it gets stronger. I mean, think about it. If a belief just shatters the second you really look at it, was it ever really worth holding on to in the first place? So all of this leaves us with one last very personal question. You don't have to empty your entire basket today, but what if? What if you just took out one apple? What's the very first belief you're willing to hold up to the light and really, truly inspect for yourself?